Aya Wilson had a choice, and she chose envy. While Caitlin Clark teamed up with Nelly Korda to bring viral attention to women's golf, Wilson chose to undermine the moment with petty shade and dismissive gestures. Her frustration wasn't just personal. It revealed a troubling mindset, that rising stars are threats, not assets. Meanwhile, Clark's effortless professionalism and quiet dominance allowed her to elevate not just herself, but an entire sport. The LPGA welcomed it. The WNBA ignored it. And in doing so, they exposed their inability to lead in an era where visibility and collaboration are everything.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Clark didn't need to dunk or talk back. She let the numbers, headlines, and audience engagement speak for her. While Wilson aired out her discontent, Clark turned silence into spotlight. The truth is, growth happens where leadership allows it. And if Wilson can't rise above personal grievances to support broader progress, she risks becoming a symbol of what's holding the WNBA back. Clark isn't just reshaping the narrative. She's showing how it should have been handled all along. Caitlin Clark was invited to the Annika Prom by the LPGA, and just like that, women's golf saw a spike in viewership, social media engagement, and national headlines. A basketball player stepped onto the green, and the entire sports world paid attention. She wasn't there to compete. She wasn't there to win trophies. She was there because her presence alone is enough to shift momentum, and the LPGA knew it. Caitlin didn't need to swing for par. She brought something even more valuable to the event: eyes. Her crossover appeal turned a standard pro-am into a cultural moment. Viral clips, interviews, influencer buzz, it all followed her. The LPGA made one calculated decision, and they were rewarded with media gold. They saw the opportunity and moved fast. They didn't hesitate. They didn't overthink it. They said yes. And the WNBA? Silent. While the LPGA welcomed a women's basketball player with open arms, leveraged her popularity, and celebrated the impact she brought, the league Caitlin actually plays and said nothing. No promotion, no highlights, no shared celebration. They didn't lift the moment, they buried it. The only noise came from players like Aya Wilson, whose cryptic social media posts and passive digs spoke volumes. Aya Wilson didn't congratulate Caitlin. She didn't amplify the moment. Instead, she reacted with what many viewed as resentment, thinly disguised as commentary. She let the jealousy show, and fans noticed. While Caitlin smiled her way through the crossover, giving positive press to both sports, Wilson used the moment to center herself, not in a supportive way, but in a way that felt competitive, insecure, and bitter. And that's where the league's biggest problem lives. This wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was a spotlight shrinking, ego-driven implosion. Caitlin Clark wasn't trying to outshine anyone. Her presence at the event wasn't a threat. It was a bridge, a chance to link basketball and golf, to pull new fans into both arenas, and to show that women's sports can and should work together. The LPGA got the memo. The WNBA didn't. Instead of celebrating one of their own becoming a cross-sport ambassador, the WNBA let individual egos dominate the narrative. No one took the mic to say, "This is good for all of us." No league rep stepped up to say, "We're proud of Caitlin." They let the energy turn petty, and it made them look out of touch. Aya Wilson has every reason to be proud of her accomplishments. She's one of the best to ever do it. But that doesn't excuse her reaction. Instead of rising to meet the moment, she made it about herself. The cryptic comments didn't show strength. They showed insecurity. And in a moment when leadership was needed, she chose resentment. That's not what the face of a league should do. Because here's the thing. Caitlin Clark's success isn't subtractive. It's exponential. When one player brings in millions of new fans, everyone benefits. This could have been a boost for the league's visibility, for its ratings, for its overall perception. But instead of riding that wave, the WNBA let bitterness sink the boat. Meanwhile, the LPGA is out here setting the blueprint. They saw Caitlin as a net positive, and they embraced her for what she is, a media magnet. They used her star power to elevate the event, the players, and the sport. Nelly Korda, one of golf's brightest stars, partnered with Caitlin, not with a chip on her shoulder, but with grace. And guess what? The moment went viral. Korda benefited. The LPGA benefited. Fans got something fresh and exciting. That's how you grow. You don't grow by gatekeeping visibility. You don't grow by freezing out players because they're too popular too fast. You don't grow by acting like attention is a finite resource. You grow by embracing the spotlight and sharing it. But the WNBA has a visibility problem, and the league's response, or lack of one, to Caitlin's LPGA moment exposed it. There's a deep-rooted discomfort with letting anyone dominate the headlines unless it's been pre-approved. A fear that new faces will change the hierarchy. A fear that someone else's success might mean less room for you. That's not how modern sports work. This is a world built on collaboration and crossover. Athletes who expand beyond their sport bring value to everyone around them. Caitlin isn't just a basketball player. She's a brand, a name that pulls in casual viewers, and a relatable figure with nationwide appeal. That's not a threat. That's a gift. The fact that the WNBA can't see that, or won't admit it, speaks to their leadership failure. They had a marketing goldmine in front of them and chose to let it rust. And players like Aya Wilson, instead of stepping into the moment and showing what unity looks like, they doubled down on division. It's not just bad optics. It's bad business. The league had a shot to say, look at our player bringing golf to new heights. They could have flipped the narrative. Instead, they ran from it. And when they ran, they left Caitlin standing alone, being lifted by a different league that saw her potential more clearly than the one that owns her contract. That's embarrassing. The LPGA outperformed the WNBA at their own game. They showed how to handle star power, how to turn visibility into momentum, how to celebrate an athlete without ego. And they did it better, faster, and more publicly than the WNBA ever has. And Aya Wilson? She showed how not to respond. Her reaction was the kind of self-centered play that turns fans off. Not because she's wrong to want recognition, but because she framed someone else's moment as her personal slight. And that energy gets old fast. It's not about who's more deserving. It's about understanding that Caitlin Clark's visibility helps everyone. The smart move would have been to say, congrats. Let's build on this. The selfish move? To act like the moment didn't exist or wasn't valid. That's what Aya chose. And that's what the WNBA allowed. The result? A missed opportunity, a fractured perception, and another example of how ego holds the league back. Caitlin Clark is showing what modern leadership looks like. She stays focused, stays professional, and collaborates across sports. She doesn't lash out. She doesn't play the victim. She uplifts the moment and lets her performance and her presence speak for itself. That's what fans want. That's what sponsors want. That's what media wants. And if the WNBA can't get behind that, they'll keep losing relevance. Because other leagues are paying attention. They're watching how Clark is treated. They're watching how success is punished instead of celebrated. And they're thinking, we could do it better. The LPGA already did. Let us know what you think. Did the WNBA drop the ball on Caitlin's LPGA moment? Should Aya Wilson have shown more leadership and less shade? And what does this mean for the future of women's sports when one league lifts and another clings? Leave your thoughts below. Like the video if you're here for the real conversations. Subscribe for more drama, breakdowns, and moments that pull back the curtain. And send this to someone who still doesn't understand how much one player can move the needle when you let her. Because if this moment proved anything, it's that Caitlin Clark didn't need permission to shine. She just needed someone willing to say yes. And the LPGA did. The WNBA? They blinked. That blink from the WNBA, it wasn't just a misstep. It was a full-on missed era-defining moment. The league had Caitlin Clark on the roster. Their player. Their rising phenom. And when she stepped into an LPGA event and pulled in eyeballs from outside the sports world, they sat it out. No post. No promo. Not even a lazy retweet. The silence was louder than applause could have ever been. And the worst part? The optics weren't just bad, they were revealing. It showed exactly how hesitant the WNBA still is when someone breaks out in a way they didn't plan for. Caitlin Clark didn't come up through the league's slow, approval-heavy PR machine. She came in with her own gravity, her own following, and a very clear sense of self. And instead of wrapping their arms around that kind of momentum, the WNBA froze. Or worse, they let Io Wilson and others speak for them, through side-eye tweets and bitter undertones. Let's be honest, it wasn't subtle. Wilson's commentary, as always, was shaded just enough to give her deniability, but just loud enough to let you know who it was about. It wasn't a call for unity. It wasn't a show of support. It was a reminder that there's still an unspoken pecking order in the WNBA, and Caitlin Clark, despite all her influence, hadn't earned the right to step above it. And that's where the insecurity lies. Because Caitlin has earned it. Maybe not in the traditional stat-stacking, season-after-season way that Wilson and others have. But this isn't just about points or rebounds anymore. It's about relevance. It's about who's moving culture, who's drawing new fans, who's introducing the sport to people who didn't even know it existed last year. Clark is doing that. Like it or not, she is the headline. She is the growth engine. And the league's refusal to own that, to stand beside her instead of behind her, is dragging them down. Compare it again to the LPGA, who had nothing to lose. This wasn't their player. This wasn't their league's priority. And yet, they saw Clark's involvement as a major win. They embraced it fully, rolled out the red carpet, and let her do what she does best, connect. She showed up, teamed up with Nelly Korda, and the internet exploded. The coverage was instant. People who'd never watched golf in their lives were now talking about the LPGA. Clips went viral. Crossover fan bases collided. It was the kind of moment you can't buy. But the WNBA didn't even try to benefit from it. They didn't say, "Look at our star bringing new visibility to women's sports." They didn't promote it as a league milestone. They didn't offer unity or celebration, just a vacuum of support. And in that vacuum, Io Wilson decided to make it about her. Again, instead of saying congrats or great for the game, she went cryptic. She played the same card she always plays when someone else takes the spotlight. Vague frustration. And it's exhausting. This is the pattern. Someone in the league gets a big moment. Clark, previously Ionescu, anyone who pulls mainstream attention, and Wilson's response is tension. Not celebration. Not leadership. Not recognition of what that moment could mean for the league's growth. Just resentment. And look, let's not downplay what Wilson has achieved. She's one of the best in WNBA history. Her resume is stacked. She's the kind of athlete you build a league around. But being elite doesn't make you immune to criticism. And in this case, she missed the mark again. Because she's acting like attention is a pie. That every slice Clark gets means one less for her. But that's not how it works anymore. Caitlin Clark walking into a golf course and exploding golf viewership doesn't take anything away from the WNBA. It adds to the power of women's sports as a whole. It shows brands and networks that female athletes move culture. It proves that women in sport can transcend their field. And that lesson should have been the league's rally cry. But what did the WNBA do? They said nothing. They let pettiness rule the narrative. Wilson's passive-aggressive comments did more to shape the public reaction than anything from the actual league. That's unacceptable. When your top players are allowed to undermine your breakout star, and your league stays silent, it sends a clear message. We don't know how to handle success we didn't control. That mindset will kill growth. Meanwhile, Clark keeps her head down. She doesn't clap back. She doesn't react. She just continues to perform, engage with fans, and say yes to the right opportunities. Her LPGA moment was poised, graceful, and inclusive. She uplifted Korda, engaged with golf fans, and never once made it about ego. That's the leadership everyone thought the WNBA already had in Wilson. But leadership isn't about stats or seniority. It's about how you act when the spotlight shifts. And Wilson's reaction showed she doesn't want to share it. And that's fine if you're not claiming to be a face of the league. But if you are, you need to be bigger than the moment. You need to support the rookie when she's bringing in more viewers than the league has seen in years. You need to realize that Caitlin's LPGA appearance wasn't a slight. It was a door. And that door could have opened for everyone if the WNBA had just walked through it. Instead, they stood there, arms crossed, watching it swing open and shut. The LPGA didn't hesitate, and now they're trending. The WNBA hesitated, and now they're scrambling to explain why they couldn't even acknowledge one of their players doing something historic outside the court. That's the difference between leadership and fear. One says, we want to grow. Let's go together. The other says, stay in your lane. And if the WNBA doesn't evolve fast, their stars will take their talents elsewhere. Clark didn't need the league's permission to be impactful. She was impactful, and she'll keep being impactful because other sports, other sponsors, and other platforms are paying attention. The question is, will the WNBA catch up, or will they keep letting their insecurity write the narrative for them? Caitlin Clark isn't just building a brand. She's building a blueprint. What happened at the Annika Prom wasn't a one-off publicity stunt. It was a case study in modern athlete marketing. One league saw the opportunity, leaned in, and reaped the rewards. The other shrugged. Let's not overcomplicate this. A WNBA player was invited to a golf tournament, and the entire event went viral. That should have been a slam dunk for both leagues. And yet, only one league walked away with momentum. The LPGA knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't flinch when some critics called the move random. They didn't ask Clark to prove herself with a golf resume. They understood that cultural influence is more valuable than any stat line. And Clark, she delivered. Smiling, poised, collaborative, teaming up with Nelly Korda like they'd been besties for years. It was pure synergy. Two elite athletes from different sports, drawing double the audience and showing the world that cross-sport visibility works. Meanwhile, back in the WNBA, silence. And in that silence, Aya Wilson's passive reactions once again stole the narrative. That's the part people aren't talking about enough. The WNBA didn't just fumble the moment. They let Wilson define it. And let's be clear, she wasn't celebrating. She was sulking. That energy didn't just make her look insecure. It made the league look insecure. It wasn't just a bad look. It was a bad strategy. Because here's what the LPGA did right. They embraced something bigger than golf. They saw Caitlin Clark for what she is, a generational media force. And they didn't try to fit her into their mold. They let her be herself and trusted that she would elevate the brand. Spoiler alert, she did. The WNBA? They saw that same momentum and retreated. No post, no campaign, no partnership with the LPGA. Just crossed arms and subtle shade from their top players. That's not a league growing. That's a league gatekeeping. And honestly, it's exhausting to watch. Because every time Clark gets a major opportunity, the same cycle repeats. She does something monumental. The media celebrates. New fans pour in. And instead of welcoming those fans, some of the league's veterans look visibly irritated. They post cryptic messages. They imply that Clark's success is somehow unearned. And then they act shocked when people start questioning their leadership. Aya Wilson has made it clear she doesn't want to share the spotlight. And that's fine if you're a competitor. But when you position yourself as a face of the league, that attitude has consequences. Because being the face of the league means being bigger than your feelings. It means showing leadership even when you're not the headline. It means recognizing that someone else's success might just lift the whole ship. Caitlin Clark isn't stealing attention. She's generating it. And the only thing standing between the WNBA and a full-scale cultural breakthrough is the league's own refusal to embrace that fact. You want proof? Look at the numbers. Clark's prom appearance trended higher than any regular season WNBA game this year. Her content was reposted by sports pages outside of basketball. She pulled in casual viewers, golf fans, and curious onlookers who probably hadn't watched a WNBA game in their life. That kind of visibility is priceless. And how did the WNBA respond? They let the most influential player they've had in years get more support from a golf league than her own. It was baffling. And worse, it was telling. Because the LPGA showed something the WNBA still lacks. Confidence. Confidence to uplift someone who wasn't homegrown. Confidence to share the spotlight. Confidence to admit that a little media noise is good, even if it comes from a new face. Instead, The WNBA acted like Caitlyn was an intruder, a disruption. And that's exactly how Wilson treated her, too. The cold tone, the sideways comments, the not-so-subtle implication that Clark hadn't earned her spot. But here's the truth. Clark didn't skip any steps. She dominated college basketball, broke attendance records, and walked into the WNBA with more national buzz than anyone before her. She didn't leapfrog the system. She reshaped it. And that's the real issue. Because players like Aya Wilson built their careers in an era where attention had to be clawed for slow, steady, and often unnoticed. They never had this kind of hype. And that difference? It stings. It feels unfair. But here's the thing. It isn't unfair. It's evolution. The media landscape has changed. Visibility is a skill now. Influence isn't accidental. It's strategic. And Clark understands that better than anyone in her generation. She's not louder. She's not flashier. She's smarter. She's deliberate. Every move is calculated for reach and resonance. And if the WNBA doesn't want to be left behind, it needs to follow her lead, not resent it. That means the league has to stop treating her like a threat and start treating her like a signal. A signal that women's sports can finally compete in the mainstream. That a WNBA player can walk into a golf tournament and own the room. That the future isn't about silos and separation. It's about visibility and collaboration. Clark's prom appearance was a win, whether the WNBA wanted it or not. And Aya Wilson's cold reaction didn't just reflect badly on her. It reflected a culture problem. One where success is only respected if it follows the old rules. But the old rules don't work anymore. And Clark's success is proof. This isn't just a Caitlin Clark story. This is a story about a league at a crossroads. Will they cling to the past, to hierarchy, ego, and gatekeeping? Or will they wake up and realize that the game has changed and that Clark is already playing it better than anyone? Fans are watching. Brands are watching. And right now, the LPGA looks progressive and collaborative, while the WNBA looks territorial and defensive. That contrast isn't going away. If the WNBA wants to be taken seriously as a modern league, it needs to embrace the momentum when it shows up, even if it didn't come from where they expected, even if it didn't come from who they wanted. Because Caitlin Clark isn't just a player. She's a platform. And every time the league fails to get behind her, they're turning their back on the kind of growth they've been begging for years. Let's know your take. Was the WNBA's silence a missed opportunity? Did Aya Wilson's reaction say more about her than it did about Clark? Should the league be doing more to promote all its stars, especially the ones bringing in new audiences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're tired of seeing leagues fumble momentum. Subscribe if you're here for real breakdowns without sugarcoating. And share this with someone who still thinks women's sports can't be culturally dominant. Because Caitlin Clark didn't need the WNBA's permission. She needed their support. And now they're watching from the sidelines while golf takes the win.